Welcome, dear listener, and thank you for choosing to spend this time with us, allowing our story to accompany you into rest. Tonight we journey into the heart of tranquility with the Lumina Blooms Velvet Echo, a gentle fantasy designed to soothe your mind and spirit. If you find comfort in this auditory sanctuary and wish for more peaceful escapes, we warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Before we venture into the softly glowing depths of the Lumina Caves, we will begin with a short breathing guidance to help you settle in and release the day. Should you prefer to drift directly into the story, you can find the chapter timestamps conveniently located in the video description below. Please find a position that feels deeply comfortable for you now. Allow your body to become heavy, sinking softly into the surface beneath you. Feel the support holding you completely, letting go of any need to hold yourself up. Adjust your pillow or covers, creating a warm, safe haven just for you. This moment is a gentle threshold, an invitation to leave behind the busyness of the world and embrace the quietude awaiting within. Let the thought of the Lumina Caves, with their cool air and soft light, begin to fill your awareness, guiding you towards relaxation. Let us take a slow, calming breath together now. Inhale gently through your nose, feeling the cool air entering, filling you softly, naturally. And as you exhale, release the breath through your mouth with a quiet sigh, like a gentle wave receding from the shore. Feel your shoulders soften, your jaw relax, the small muscles around your eyes easing. With each inhale, imagine drawing in the peaceful resonance of the caves. With each exhale, picture any lingering tension dissolving, flowing away like water smoothing stone. Visualize the soft, warm glow of the Lumina Blooms. Feel their velvet echo beginning to resonate within you. If thoughts arise, acknowledge them without judgment, like noticing distant clouds drifting across a calm night sky. Gently guide your focus back perhaps to the rhythm of your own breath, the feeling of warmth spreading through your body, or the sound of my voice. There is nothing else required of you now but to rest, to listen, and to allow the gentle narrative to cradle you. Feel the profound stillness of the caves settling around you, the cool air a comforting blanket. Let the gentle pulse of the earth's energy, the subtle hum of ancient stone, carry away any remnants of worry or restlessness. Allow yourself to become one with this deep, abiding peace. Now let us begin our journey into the Lumina Caves, where the velvet echo awaits to guide you into serene and restful slumber. Chapter 1. The Whispering Threshold. The path leading towards the Lumina Caves had grown softer underfoot, the packed earth giving way to moss that cushioned Rowan's weary steps. The air, once filled with the scent of sun-warmed pine and distant meadows, now carried a different fragrance, cooler, damper, smelling distinctly of stone and the deep, undisturbed places of the world. A hush seemed to emanate from the dark opening in the hillside ahead, a silence that wasn't empty, but full, like a held breath. Rowan paused, feeling the subtle shift not just in the air, but within their own being, a quieting of the constant low thrum of fatigue that had been their companion for so long. The entrance itself was unassuming, a simple arch worn smooth by time and perhaps the passage of gentle rains, framed by ferns dripping with collected moisture. No harsh winds blew here. The air hung still and cool, carrying faint musical notes, the slow rhythmic drip of water somewhere within the unseen depths. It sounded like a patient clock, marking time not in urgent seconds, but in slow geologic ages. Rowan placed a hand against the rock beside the entrance. It was smooth, colder than the air, and felt immensely solid, a comforting anchor in the shifting world outside. Taking a slow breath, Rowan stepped across the threshold, moving from the muted greens and browns of the forest into a realm of soft shadows. The light changed instantly, the bright openness of the sky replaced by a gentle gloaming. It took a moment for Rowan's eyes to adjust, and as they did, faint points of light began to emerge along the walls. Not harsh or bright, but a soft, ethereal luminescence, like captured moonlight. It came from patches of moss, clinging like velvet tapestries to the curving stone, pulsing with a slow internal rhythm, casting shifting patterns of pale green and silver onto the path ahead. The sound of dripping water became clearer now, echoing slightly in the enclosed space, each drop landing with a soft chime in what sounded like a hidden pool. The coolness deepened, a pleasant relief that seemed to seep into Rowan's very bones, soothing aches they hadn't realized they were carrying. The path sloped gently downwards, wide enough to walk comfortably, the floor worn smooth but not slippery. Rowan walked slowly, deliberately, placing each foot with care, not out of fear, but out of a growing sense of reverence for the profound stillness of the place. There was a unique scent here, layered beneath the primary notes of damp earth and stone. It was a faint, clean smell, almost like the air after a gentle rain shower, but with an added sweetness, subtle and elusive. Rowan guessed it might be the minerals in the rock, or perhaps the glowing moss itself breathing out its quiet light. The silence felt different now, deeper, wrapping around Rowan like a soft blanket, muffling the lingering echoes of the outside world and the inner noise of weariness. With every step deeper into the cave, Rowan felt a layer of tension dissolve. The constant need to do, to strive, seemed to evaporate in the cool, still air. Here, the only imperative was to be, to breathe slowly, to listen to the water's patient song, to observe the gentle dance of light from the mosses. The path curved gently, leading Rowan away from the entrance, the memory of daylight fading into the soft, phosphorescent twilight. Rowan found a smooth ledge, slightly recessed into the wall, and felt an impulse to simply sit for a while. The stone was cool, but not uncomfortable. Leaning back against the solid rock, Rowan closed their eyes, focusing only on the sound of the dripping water and the feeling of the cool air on their skin. The darkness behind their eyelids wasn't absolute. Faint impressions of the glowing moss seemed to linger, soft and green. A sense of peace, tentative yet profound, began to settle in Rowan's chest. It wasn't a dramatic revelation, but a quiet unfolding, like a tightly furled fern slowly opening towards a gentle light. The weariness was still present, but it felt distant now, less insistent. Here, in the whispering threshold of the Lumina Caves, Rowan felt the first gentle promise of the respite they so desperately sought. They breathed deeply, the cool, clean air filling their lungs, and allowed the deep silence of the earth to hold them. Chapter 2: Kaelen's Welcome. Continuing along the gently winding path, Rowan noticed the glowing moss becoming more prevalent, casting a soft, steady light that made navigation easy. The air remained cool and still, the scent of damp earth now mingled with something else, a faint, grounding aroma like dried herbs. The path opened into a slightly wider area, a small grotto where the ceiling arched higher, disappearing into soft shadows above. Here the dripping sounds coalesced. Water trickled down one wall in shimmering rivulets, feeding a crystal-clear pool at its base. And beside the pool knelt a figure. They moved with a quiet deliberation, tending to what looked like a small garden of luminous fungi. These weren't like the mosses. They glowed with a warmer, softer light, shades of pale orange and gentle violet, casting a cozy ambience in the grotto. The figure looked up as Rowan approached, their movements unhurried, their eyes holding a calm, welcoming light. This must be Kaelen, the guardian Rowan had heard whispers of not a fierce protector, but a gentle caretaker. Kaelen offered a soft smile, their face kind, etched with quiet patience of the caves themselves. "Welcome, traveler." Kaelen's voice was low and soft, barely disturbing the profound quiet, like moss growing over stone. "You seek the stillness, perhaps? The Lumina Caves offer their peace freely to those who enter with a quiet heart." There was no demand, no suspicion, only gentle acceptance. Rowan, feeling strangely unburdened, simply nodded, the weariness making words feel heavy. Kaelen seemed to understand without needing an explanation. Kaelen gestured towards a smooth, flat stone near the pool. "Rest here a while. The journey inward is best taken slowly." From a woven pouch at their side, Kaelen produced a small ceramic cup and a thermos, pouring a steaming, fragrant liquid. "A simple infusion," they explained, handing the warm cup to Rowan. "Cave herbs. They help one attune to the quiet energies here." The steam rose, carrying that grounding, earthy aroma Rowan had noticed earlier, warm and comforting. Rowan accepted the cup, the warmth seeping into their hands, a welcome sensation in the cool air. Sitting on the stone, Rowan sipped the infusion. It tasted faintly sweet, earthy and deeply soothing, warming them from the inside out. Kaelen returned to tending the fungi garden, their movements slow and rhythmic, creating a peaceful tableau. The only sounds were the gentle trickle of water into the pool, the soft rustle of Kaelen's movements, and Rowan's own quiet breathing. The luminous fungi pulsed with a gentle light, casting Kaelen's serene profile into soft relief. "The caves breathe slowly," Kaelen said softly, without looking up from their work. "Everything here moves in its own time. The water carves the stone, drip by patient drip. The crystals grow over centuries. The blooms, they gather light and release it gently. To find peace here, one must learn to match that rhythm." Kaelen paused, carefully adjusting a violet-capped mushroom. "Listen not just with your ears, but with your whole self. Feel the stillness." Rowan closed their eyes again, holding the warm cup, letting Kaelen's words settle. They focused on the feeling of the smooth stone beneath them, the coolness of the air, the warmth of the infusion spreading through their chest. They listened, extending their awareness beyond the dripping water. Was there something else? A low, incredibly subtle hum, perhaps, felt more than heard, seemingly coming from the very rock itself. It was barely perceptible, like the lowest note of a distant song. Kaelen looked over, noticing Rowan's stillness. "You begin to feel it," they murmured approvingly. "The earth has its own resonance. Here, shielded from the wind and the sun's loud song, it is easier to hear. It is the first step towards understanding the velvet echo of the blooms." Kaelen gestured deeper into the cave system. "When you are ready, we can walk further, but there is no hurry. Time flows differently here." Rowan nodded, feeling no urge to rush, content for the first time in a long while to simply sit, to sip the warm tea, and to listen to the gentle breath of the ancient stone. The welcome had been as soft and unassuming as the cave light itself, a quiet invitation into peace. Chapter 3. Attuning to the resonance. When Rowan felt ready, Kaelen led them away from the grotto, deeper into the labyrinthine beauty of the caves. The path narrowed slightly, winding between formations of stone that rose like ancient sleeping sentinels. The phosphorescent moss still provided ample light, its glow reflecting softly off walls laced with shimmering veins of crystal. These weren't large, dramatic geodes, but subtle inclusions within the rock itself, catching the soft light and fracturing it into tiny, ephemeral rainbows that danced gently as they walked past. Kaelen moved with an easy grace, familiar with every turn and dip in the path. They paused beside a section of wall where the crystalline veins were more pronounced, a delicate lattice of pale quartz. "Place your hand here," Kaelen invited softly. "Close your eyes and breathe slowly. Feel." Rowan did so, pressing their palm against the cool, smooth surface. At first there was only the coldness of the stone, but as Rowan quieted their breathing, letting Kaelen's earlier advice guide them, a subtle sensation emerged, a very faint high-frequency vibration, like the ghost of a tiny bell ringing miles away. "Quartz," Kaelen murmured. "It sings with a high, clear note when the cave is calm. It responds to the stillness." They moved further along, stopping by a darker patch of rock, this one embedded with deeper, milky white crystal formations. "And here." Rowan placed their hand again. This time the vibration felt different, lower, slower, a deep, resonant thrum that seemed to sink into their bones. "Calcite," Kaelen explained. "Its voice is slower, deeper, grounding." They continued their slow passage, Kaelen pointing out different mineral veins, each with its own subtle resonance. Rowan learned to distinguish the faint chime of one from the gentle pulse of another, noticing how each vibration felt slightly different within their own body. The high notes of the quartz seemed to bring a sense of clarity, while the deeper thrum of the calcite felt settling, anchoring. It was a quiet lesson taught not through complex explanations, but through direct sensory experience. Rowan began to understand what Kaelen meant by listening with the whole self. Their path led them alongside an underground stream, wider than the pool in Kaelen's grotto, flowing slowly through a channel it had carved over millennia. The water was incredibly clear, flowing over smooth, dark pebbles. Here and there, small translucent fish drifted, eyeless and pale, moving like silver thoughts through the water. They navigated by senses other than sight, attuned to the currents and the subtle vibrations Rowan was only just beginning to perceive. Watching their slow, serene movements was profoundly calming. Kaelen suggested they pause by the stream's edge. The water carries the cave's resonance too, they said. Listen to its flow. Rowan sat on a smooth, moss-covered rock, letting the gentle sound of the water wash over them, not a rushing noise, but a soft murmuring, a liquid whisper. They practiced the slow breathing Kaelen had encouraged, inhaling as the water flowed towards them, exhaling as it moved away, feeling a connection to its steady, unhurried journey. Rowan noticed how the air itself seemed to carry these subtle vibrations. It wasn't just the stone, but the entire space that hummed with a quiet energy. The fatigue that had clung to Rowan for so long felt looser now, less like a heavy cloak and more like a thin veil, easily stirred by the gentle currents of the cave. They weren't actively trying to get rid of the weariness, but rather allowing the cave's resonance to gently realign them, finding a harmony between their inner state and the deep peace of the earth around them. Kaelen offered a quiet nod of encouragement. "You are learning the cave's language," they said softly. "It is a language spoken not in words, but in stillness, in vibration, in light. It prepares you for the heart of the caves, for the Lumina Blooms." Rowan felt a sense of quiet anticipation, not of excitement, but of readiness. The journey inward was proving to be a journey into profound sensory awareness, a gentle attunement to the subtle music of the deep earth. They felt calmer, more centered than they had in a very long time. Chapter 4, The Cavern of Bloom. Kaelen led Rowan through a final narrow passage, the air growing noticeably warmer, the subtle hum Rowan had sensed earlier becoming more distinct, more felt. It wasn't just a sound anymore, but a physical presence in the air, a gentle pressure, soft and encompassing. The passage opened dramatically into a vast cavern, far larger than any space they had yet encountered, and here, bathed in a soft golden light, were the Lumina Blooms. They grew in clusters on low, smooth mounds of rock that rose like islands from the cavern floor, which was covered in fine, pale sand. The blooms themselves were breathtaking, not flowers of petal and stem, but intricate structures of pure, solidified light. They glowed with a warm, golden-white radiance, pulsing gently, slowly, like sleeping hearts. Each bloom was perhaps the size of a large peony, its light soft, unwavering, and deeply welcoming. It wasn't a harsh glare, but a comforting illumination that filled the cavern with a sense of warmth and profound peace. The air itself felt different here. It was thick, almost velvety, vibrating with the collective resonance of the blooms. This was the velvet echo Rowan had heard about, and the description was perfect. It felt like being wrapped in the softest, warmest velvet, a gentle vibration that permeated everything, sinking into Rowan's skin, traveling through muscle and bone, reaching the very core of their being. It wasn't loud. It was a deep, resonant hum, lower than the calcite's thrum, steadier, infinitely more soothing. Rowan stood motionless for a long moment, simply absorbing the sight, the sound, the feeling. The weariness that had been a constant companion seemed to dissolve utterly in the presence of the blooms, not pushed away forcefully but gently melted, like mist evaporating in soft sunlight. Tears pricked at Rowan's eyes, not from sadness, but from an overwhelming sense of release and homecoming. It felt as though a part of them that had been tense and coiled for years was finally, gently, unspooling. Kaelen guided Rowan towards one of the sandy areas between the luminous mounds. "Sit," Kaelen whispered, their voice barely audible above the gentle hum. "There is nothing to do here but receive. Let the echo hold you." Rowan sank down onto the sand, which was surprisingly soft and fine, still holding a faint warmth from the bloom's light. They sat quietly, eyes sometimes open, gazing at the gentle pulse of the light flowers, sometimes closed, focusing purely on the sensation of the velvet echo. The vibration was profoundly calming. It seemed to find every point of tension Rowan held, the tightness in their shoulders, the clenched jaw they hadn't realized they maintained, the subtle knot of anxiety deep in their stomach, and gently soothed it away. It wasn't forceful, but persuasive, a constant, gentle reminder to release, to soften, to let go. Rowan focused on the feeling of warmth spreading through their limbs, a comforting weight settling over them, anchoring them to the peaceful earth. Time seemed to lose all meaning in the Cavern of Bloom. Rowan might have sat there for minutes or hours. It felt irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was the present moment, the gentle light, the soft sand, the all-encompassing velvet echo. Kaelen sat nearby, eyes closed, seemingly lost in their own quiet communion with the blooms, radiating an aura of complete serenity. The silence, apart from the hum, was absolute, a deep, nurturing quiet that allowed the soul space to breathe. Rowan began to breathe in rhythm with the gentle pulsing of the bloom's light, a slow, deep cadence that felt utterly natural. With each inhale, they drew in the warm light and the soothing vibration. With each exhale, they released another layer of old fatigue, of unnamed burdens. A profound sense of peace, deeper than any Rowan had ever known, washed over them in gentle waves. It was the peace of stillness, of acceptance, of simply being, held safely within the heart of the ancient caves, bathed in the light of living flowers, wrapped in their soft velvet echo. Chapter 5. Echoes of Peace. Rowan lingered in the Cavern of Bloom, feeling no desire to leave its profound tranquility. Sometimes they would simply sit, eyes closed, fully immersed in the tactile sensation of the velvet echo, feeling its gentle vibrations recalibrate their entire being. Other times, they would open their eyes and watch the slow, rhythmic pulsing of the Lumina Blooms, finding a meditative focus in their soft, unwavering light. The golden glow seemed to illuminate not just the cavern, but also quiet corners of Rowan's own mind, bringing a gentle clarity without effort. Kaelen remained a quiet presence, sometimes sitting in meditation, sometimes slowly walking the perimeter of the cavern, their movements as fluid and natural as the flowing water in the outer passages. Occasionally, Kaelen would share quiet words of wisdom, observations gleaned from long years spent in communion with the caves. "The bloom does not force healing," Kaelen murmured one time, as Rowan traced patterns in the soft sand with a finger. "It simply offers harmony. We choose whether to attune to it, to let our own inner rhythms find resonance with its peace." Rowan found simple, calming activities to occupy the timeless moments. They collected smooth, cool pebbles from the edges of the cavern, arranging them in pleasing spirals on the warm sand. They watched the way the light of the blooms caught the faint shimmer of mineral dust in the air, turning it into a slow dance of tiny golden sparks. They practiced the deep, slow breathing Kaelen had taught them, feeling the rise and fall of their own chest synchronized with gentle pulse of the cavern's energy. The profound weariness Rowan had carried for so long felt like a distant memory, a story belonging to someone else. In its place was a quiet resilience, a feeling of being gently recharged, not with frantic energy, but with a deep, abiding calm. The velvet echo seemed to have settled within them, a resonant hum that Rowan could now feel even when focusing on other things, a baseline of peace that felt integrated, inherent. It was the feeling of being truly rested, soul deep. Kaelen brewed more of the calming herbal infusion, the warm, earthy scent mingling beautifully with the faint, sweet ozone of the blooms. Sharing the warm cups in comfortable silence felt like a ritual of gratitude, acknowledging the gift of the cave's sanctuary. Rowan noticed the subtle interplay of light and shadow on the cavern walls, the way the golden glow softened every edge, smoothed every surface, creating an atmosphere of ultimate gentleness. Eventually, the time came when Rowan felt ready to leave. It wasn't a feeling of reluctance, but rather a quiet sense of completeness, of having received the gift the caves offered. Standing up from the soft sand, Rowan felt lighter, taller, moving with an ease that had been absent for years. They looked at the Lumina Blooms one last time, fixing their gentle, pulsing light in their memory, feeling the velvet echo resonate within their own chest. Kaelen led Rowan back through the now familiar passages. The resonant crystals seemed to chime a little brighter. The phosphorescent moss glowed with a friendly light. The journey outward felt different, not an escape, but a carrying forth. Rowan moved slowly, mindfully, wanting to retain the deep peace they had found. Reaching the grotto where they had first met, Kaelen offered a final, warm smile. "The echo remains within you now," Kaelen said softly. "Listen for it in the quiet moments. Carry the stillness with you." Stepping back out into the muted light of the forest felt gentle, not jarring. The scents of pine and earth were welcome, familiar. The fatigue was gone, replaced by a serene awareness. Rowan turned back towards the cave entrance, now just a shadow among the ferns, and offered a silent thanks. They carried no physical souvenir, no glowing crystal or bloom, but something far more precious. The memory of light, the feeling of warmth, and the enduring velvet echo of peace within their own quieted heart. The journey back would be taken slowly, savoring the newfound tranquility with every step.